Excellent.
What's that for stuff?
Yeah. That's okay.
Oh, no.
All right, are you ready? All right, so we have two things to do tonight. First is to call to order the Board of Trustees of the Batavia Public Library District for a public hearing. Today is 18th July 2017. We'll call this meeting to order for a public hearing. We need to start by calling the roll.
Blodgett. Kulata.
Here.
Beechman.
Here.
Garrett.
Here.
Enders.
Here.
Kenzie.
Here.
Smith here.
All right. So this is a public hearing on an ordinance approving and adopting the annual budget and appropriation for library purposes for the fiscal year beginning 1 July 2017 and ending 30 June 2018. Section 1. This is a public hearing on an ordinance approving and adopting the annual budget and appropriations for library purposes for the fiscal year beginning 1 July 2017 and ending 30 July 2018. Ordinance 2017-006. Section 2. In accordance with Illinois statutes, the Library District published a legal notice of public hearing on Thursday, 22 June 2017. This notice was published in the Kane County Chronicle. Section 3. The ordinance in tentative form was available for public inspection for at least 30 days prior to this hearing at the reference desk and the business office of the Batavia Public Library during regular library hours. Section 4. If there's any person who desires to present testimony to the taxing district represented by this Board of Library Trustees, please step forward at this time. Seeing no one here, I will take a motion for adjournment.
I so move.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned from our public hearing. All right, now we go to our regular meeting. So I now call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Batavia Public Library for Tuesday, July 18, 2018. 2018.
That's right.
Got a little head of yourself there, George. 2017.
So, yeah,
We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You speak so kindly. Call roll.
Blodgett. Kulata.
Here.
Beechman.
Here.
Garrett.
Here.
Enders.
Here.
McKenzie.
Here.
Smith here.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the audience? Seeing none, we will move to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have minutes from our regular meeting of 20th of June, from the closed session of the 20th of June, our special meeting from the 29th of June, which was our board retreat. We have the expenditures for June 2017, and we have an ordinance approving and adopting the annual budget and appropriation for library purposes for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2018, which was the ordinance for which we just had the public hearing. Does anybody want to change anything on the consent agenda? Then I need a roll call vote for the consent agenda. Do I need a
Blodgett.
motion first? Sorry, I need a motion. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, Jennifer, thank you. Now we can do a roll call, thanks.
Blodgett. Kulata.
Aye. Yes, here. Aye. What do I say?
Aye.
Aye.
Beechman.
Aye.
Garrett.
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
McKenzie.
All right.
Smith aye.
Very good, thank you. Now I need a motion to approve our agenda for this evening. Can we do that with a roll call? Just a regular vote. Do we need a motion and a second for that too?
I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Kate.
I'll second.
Thank you, Joanne. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We will start with financial reports.
Our treasurer is on vacation. I'm
you're-
distracted.
Joe's on
Our
vacation.
treasurer is here, our finance specialist is on vacation, I'm sorry.
Okay,
And there is nothing particular to report from the business office.
okay. All right. Yeah, so we don't have a financial report because it's end of the year, right?
Yes, we will have, next month, we'll have the working budget through June 30th, and then the other statement of revenue expenditures for the new fiscal year, and the investment report usually follows the first quarter because there's not much to report until then.
Okay. President's report, I have nothing to report. Nothing of note. Any good news or comments from the board? Okay. Correspondence and communications, we had one piece of mail with proposed annexation of territory by the library, or by the city for a piece of property on Roberts Lane.
And there's also a holiday and closing schedule that,
That you provided to us, okay.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah, it was in the
I'm sorry, can you go back to the piece of mail? I just opened this too.
So we get
It was
these.
addressed to the old board though.
Oh, was it?
That's what it looked like, and then I
yeah.
got it forwarded
Right.
Okay.
to me. but-
We'll have to get that changed with the community, with the
They're
city.
updated now.
Are they, okay, so they provide us, every time they do an annexation, they let us know, because it typically will, it's properties that are within inside our boundary also. So when, so it was an unincorporated, it looks like, it was Batavia Township, and now it's incorporated into the city of
Got it.
Batavia.
Thank you.
And so, every once in a while,
Yeah.
what's that?
The last, 2-3 years, they've been, especially the last year, they've been aggressively annexing to fill in a lot of the gaps in the city map, which looks like Swiss cheese in certain areas.
So, yeah, there's a number of unincorporated areas, so they will forward these to us, and I imagine they send them to the other taxing bodies, just to let them know what's going on, so, and they always send them certified mail. And they used to send them to our homes, but we asked them just to send them all here, so we can, we don't need to do anything with it, it's more an information.
Thank you, that's what I was.
Yeah, you're right, but there's nothing that, yeah, there's no action we need to take on those, so.
And they're required by state law to send them to the governing board, so by certified mail, so that's why you're getting them.
Works for me.
All right, what else was those minutes for? Okay, very good. So that's correspondence and communications. Next, we have directors and librarians reports.
Well, it's, we've completed our fiscal year. I added a new type of information under the statistics reports, which are the items checked up, or the statistics per capita, which I thought was interesting based on what we discovered last month was being the top 10 libraries. So I've incorporated that into the report you'll find at the front end there. So this last fiscal year, we still pretty high, 24.6 items checked out per capita, which is an interesting number. A population of 26,562 as of the last census. Related to the top 10 library on page 3, I repeated that with a little note highlighted in green. The data they were using came from the Public Library Survey, which is compiled on the federal level through the state libraries, and the data they used was for the fiscal year 2014 that was just published this last year. So that's and the Library Analytics is a for-profit organization, and they publish a blog, which is where this appeared, but is without becoming a member, it doesn't seem there seems no route to access other information they might have. So.
Do they do this survey on a yearly basis, or is it?
The Institute of Museum and Library Services has been doing for many years a public library survey, and the newer trustees wouldn't have seen this, but I think the incumbent trustees would maybe remember the Library Journal index that they do annually, where we report on what our standing is in our population category within the state of Illinois. And Batavia is not in the top 10 overall, but we're relatively high for our population group, and they use the same data because it's the most standardized data that's available for public libraries. Anything? There's some information from technical services that we provide each year. One of the lesser reported on aspects of work in technical services, the repair work and things like that. And otherwise, that's all I've got to highlight. We can move. Well, I guess was one of the things. Circulation. We periodically report on the number of DVDs and CD discs that are cleaned and polished because it significantly extends the life. In fact, it puts back into circulation things that maybe have stopped working because of wear or food stuck to them and that sort of thing. And it's sort of a time-consuming process, but it really extends the life of our collection. So this last fiscal year, staff and circulation cleaned 3,561 discs, so nearly 300 per month. So it keeps a big portion of our collection alive and going. We don't quite have the time to clean every disc as it comes back, so we depend upon patrons reporting that something wasn't working when they bring it back. And most people do. So,
I had a question going back to the unique visitors to the website.
Mhm.
On the first page there, that there were 4.2 unique visitors per capita for the fiscal year. And unique visitors, I'm guessing, are tracked by IP address?
I believe so, and that actually is I think is,
Kind of
I
a
almost didn't put it in there, it's almost a weird number because it's the number of unique visitors each month is what we report each month, so when we accumulate it, I'm not sure it makes a huge amount of sense.
But that would reflect people accessing the website from out of district, people who are not reflected in our per capita measure, or people accessing
It would be-
multiple computers, like a work computer and a home computer.
It would be anybody from anywhere, whether it's Batavia or not, accessing the website. And
So this maybe reflects a greater usage of the library outside of just the people in our district.
well, again, I think the thing that makes this odd, and Stacy, correct me if you're wrong, I don't know if you know much about this statistic, but I don't think she does. And the person who does is our graphic designer, who's our webmaster. And I think the counter resets every month. So every month we're reporting on the number of unique visitors. So we might get a visitor in July who maybe was here in June, I think is how that's working. So we're getting a very large number of visitors, and probably a good saturation point. But I'm going to have to drill a little bit deeper with our webmaster to find out really what this is really counting and how this is reporting it, because it dawned on me when I was doing the number per capita that the number doesn't quite make sense in that context.
I agree with Kate. I think it's probably IP addresses.
Well, I think it
could
has to be.
You know, one person being counted multiple times, depending on where.
Which I think that's interesting, just that the website is not, you don't have to be a member of a taxpayer in the district in order to access the website.
Correct.
So it's being used by folks beyond our borders, which I think is
But how can you tell it's beyond our borders?
No, you couldn't necessarily.
No, I mean, it could be 4 different computers in one household,
Right,
right? Like
that's
an
true.
iPad versus a laptop versus a...
That's true.
Right. Or me.
I mean, I don't know.
I believe Hans uses Google Analytics to gather the data,
He
and they
does.
will show geography. So if we
But
were
that's not what
interested in
this-
seeing that, I believe we could look at where people are coming from geographically. But
That would be interesting. Just coming from.
Curiosity.
Right.
Yeah, and to see where they're going, specifically,
Yeah.
what resources on the site are being used most. You know, which out of the databases and the educational resources people are really, I mean, I know that we've seen some of those statistics, like Gale course access and what have you, but it'd be great to see some sort of visualization of that data to really hone in, and maybe that's part of the community engagement work, is to find out really what's attracting people to the online services that we provide.
We can do more of that. I don't know how much of that we're even, I believe we're not completely accessing all that is possible to access through Google.
It does a lot. It will show which pages you can access and the number of times, so you can do different date ranges. So we have, there's a lot that we can take a look at. Just a matter of letting them know what we're interested in, or asking them what's even there, you know, list of all the different variables, because it's kind of deep.
All right. Any other questions on George's report?
And then Joanne and Stacy.
Yep. Hey, Joanne.
Hello. We just have a few things tonight. We're back down to our last 2 weeks of summer reading club. It's hard to believe that
Right.
in a month, children will be going back to school. It's kind of crazy to think that the summer is flying by so fast. I'm going to send around a few posters, Hans, from
Thank you.
our promotional services department. Our graphic designer puts together very kindly some of our programming, highlights from some of our programming. So you'll see that we are still doing quite a bit of programming. Today, we had middle schoolers here doing cupcake wars. And so I think 18 participated in doing a variety of cupcake designs, and staff from managers and staff from other departments, not youth services, came and judged those designs, and they could work in teams or individuals. So I guess it was a lot of fun program, and the students really had a great job using, pardon me? Yes.
Was
Yes.
taste testing one of the?
No, I don't think you had to taste test.
I wanted to taste some of them.
They got judged on, they did not bake them.
I see, they decorate.
They were edible,
Funny.
but they had to decorate them. So it was kind of a fun program. So we've had a lot of programs, and we still have quite a few more yet before the summer is over. So we're still pretty busy with that, and logbooks. This year, you might remember I said that we were trying something different. We weren't doing our regular registration where we have, maybe 2,000 kids register and then count how many come back. This year, we weren't going to do the registration numbers. We were just going to track children who were coming in to actually record their logbooks. So right now we have a little over 1,000 children who have come in to record their logbooks. And just today I had a family of 2 who hadn't been in yet at all during the summer. They'd been reading all summer because they got their logbooks at the end of the school year, but they hadn't been in yet to collect rewards. So we anticipate these next 2 weeks we will continue to get a lot of families who have been off vacationing or something who are turning in their logbooks. So a little plug to BATV until August 2nd to get logbooks in for summer reading club. So hopefully we'll get all those logbooks in. But I do want to point out one other program that's coming up, and it's next Thursday. And the reason I'm pointing it out is this year we are going to open it up to all families, whether you're a summer reading club participant or not. But we've kind of gotten away from having a summer reading club finale every year, but this year we are doing a special event at the end of summer reading club on next Thursday on July 27th at 7 p.m. And Jerry Zimmerman, also known as Dr. Freeze from Fermilab, is going to be doing a program for us at Fermilab at the Ramsey Auditorium. And I want to make mention to that because we're giving out free tickets for that. Because the Ramsey Auditorium is so large, we can accommodate a lot of people. So if family and friends of Summer Reading Club participants would like to come. If you have friends and neighbors, we had one little boy today in for his Summer Reading Club logbook, and he really wanted to go to the program, but it's his birthday. So we said to Mom, well, if you have 5 little boys that you want to bring to, that would be a great birthday treat. So she was going to keep that in mind as a possibility. So I wanted to mention that tonight in case you know of neighbors who might want to enjoy that or get the word out that we do have free tickets for that for the auditorium.
I've seen Mr. Freeze in the past, and it really was fun.
Yeah, he has a great show, and a number of children have seen him because he's kind of made the rounds in Batavia. But the kids who have seen him have said, oh yes, let's go back again, because they really enjoyed it. It's really an impressive show. So we have that coming back, and Summer Reading Club does go through August 2nd, and that's pretty much what we're working on yet for the rest of the summertime before we get started on our fall programming. So if there's anything you have questions of, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, I'll pass it on to Stacy.
All right, thanks, Joanne. Hi, Stacy.
Just a couple items I'd like to highlight in my report. The first is that we have a computer that we've repurposed back in the adult services area near the reference desk. It's a 15-minute express computer. Most of our express computers offer 30 minutes. This is a 15-minute express for people who show up at the library without a photo ID, which we do require for the 30-minute express. So if someone's out on a walk and they suddenly realize they have got to check their email or something like that, we can now accommodate those folks. It's something that we perceived was something where we were saying, oh, we can do an exception for you, and we thought this is something we can just accommodate with a quick change of the use of one of our computers, so we're now able to say yes more often. The other item I wanted to just point out in the report is the fiscal year recap for adult services, which highlights some new services that our department has been offering, as well as some things that we're supporting. We're helping a lot of people get started with the Boopsie app, as well as a lot of other e-read and e-media download sources. A couple statistics I wanted to pull out. Earlier we were talking about web page hits and so forth. The My Librarian pages, which is one of the numbers that one of our staff tracks, received 4,723 views in the past year, which is a very nice number that we're pleased with. And another number that's in the 4,000s, this past year, 4,225 adults and teens participated in adult services programs. That does not count those who participate in summer and winter reading. And that's up from 3,846 last year. So we're up quite a bit to over 4,000 this year, which we're pleased about. And if there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer those.
Thanks. I have a question, but I don't know which one to ask it to. The eclipse that's coming up on August 21st, I had heard that the library might be getting glasses to allow people to view those.
We do here.
So YS is doing a program on that day
Okay.
because children are off school.
They are?
That day. Oh, yes.
Because they start school the Wednesday before, the week before. Okay,
Yes.
so we have that Monday off.
So we have that Monday off, so we are planning a program, kind of games, trivia,
Okay.
things like that. We have ordered glasses, yes, so
Okay.
for the first 200, primarily children, we're hoping will get glasses.
Okay.
And they are from, and I forget which company right now, but there was a number that were, okay, these are okay places
Okay.
to get glasses from. They are from, they're the cardboard kind.
Right.
But they are from
They're
they're
Okay.
from one of the companies that has been approved. We did have a call from somebody the other day, oh, I hear you're handing out glasses. I guess there are some places who are just handing out glasses ahead of time. We are not.
Okay.
We are handing them out for our program.
At that day.
At that day,
Okay.
yes.
For
Yeah.
kids that want to come that day.
Right.
Yeah,
Viewing-
there's a website that lists which libraries would have them, and our website is listed there.
Oh, that's right. That's
So-
right. Because we got the glasses, they listed us as
Right.
having them, and so somebody called. But we are using them for our event, and the eclipse is at 1:18.
Right.
And so our program starts, I forget I think it's about 12:30 or so, and we'll be doing things that lead up to the
Okay.
eclipse.
Yeah, it's from 11:52 to 2:41 is the eclipse, and I think you said 1:18, right?
1:18 is our time.
Is a totality, or whatever it is here, which
Right.
is going to be, I think like 80 to 90%.
80 to 90%, yeah.
I forget what the actual
Right.
number is, but
Yes.
it'll be pretty good.
My
So we're
husband and I
hoping-
are going to Carbondale.
Yeah, and I know a number of people that are traveling south to see it. It's such, it's so close.
Yeah, we're hoping for no clouds,
Yeah.
Yes.
and so that we can actually see it. Otherwise, we'll be doing a lot of indoor whatever.
Right, right.
But we are inviting people to come in, and if you want to bring a shoebox, we'll show people how to make
And
those old
pinholes.
kinds of
Okay.
shoe, box viewers or things like that. So it's going to just kind of be a fun, laid back
Okay.
event. But yes, we have glasses. So
Excellent. I was
like, "I'm
hoping to
taking
get a
the day
pair to
off."
take to work, but maybe I'll just come here at lunch. Yeah, so let's take the day off.
Or at lunch, yeah.
Yeah, so, perfect. All right, thank you, Joanne.
you're welcome.
All right. I'm excited about that. I don't know how many more I'm gonna get to see, so, yeah. All right, any other questions about the directors or librarians reports? All right, we have no committee reports because we didn't do any committees this month. Rich, did you attend a BAT meeting?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And went to the meeting. There were actually 4 of us who knew representatives to that group. And so what they'll be doing is having a packet put together for us that'll be available or be passed out at the next meeting. But they said summers are generally slow, and so they didn't really expect much to be happening. Some of it had to do with looking at advertising opportunities during the football season, things
Okay.
like that, making people aware of what might be available for that. But otherwise, it was pretty quiet.
Excellent, okay. All right, capital assets plan from Building Technology Consultants, Inc. George, I'm gonna guess this is all you.
Well, BTC has put together the notes they've received thus far and all the corrections that have been identified, and some as early as the night of their presentation. So this is very close to being final. I'm doing a last line-by-line review of it, but I wanted to make sure everyone had a copy. So if there are any, we don't have to spend a lot of time discussing it tonight, but I want to make sure you had an opportunity to review it, and please send comments to me, and I'll forward them to BTC, or questions you might have, and we'll try to find answers for you. One thing that, the second reason this is in the packet, I think that's the most important reason, but our next agenda item related to the parking lot, I want to make sure you had a copy of this and had a chance to take a glance at how things are currently prioritized in terms of years. And there are several charts. Table 2 talks about annual expense summaries in the first 5 years on the first page of Table 2, for example. We clearly don't have enough money to do everything we need to do. We determined that already, but we do have some money. We're adding, of course, money every year to the Special Reserve Fund as we work through our financial planning side of things and our community engagement side of things. So I thought this would give us a chance to have whatever level of conversation that the board might want to have leading into the next agenda items discussion in terms of things that BTC recognizes as important in the near term, and our interest in how we might want to think about how we prioritize these things.
Okay. So does that lead then right into item 14?
It could, unless there's any discussion about, some of the elements that that are shown in here.
Were there substantial changes in this new version? Or can you highlight what changed?
Well, there were certain of the summary reports, particularly the one on the boilers, for example, that was they had inserted the wrong report, I think, that night, and so they've completely corrected all those changes. We incorporated. We have an end-of-life notice on our telephone equipment coming up in a couple of years, and so the telephone system was incorporated into this. And
Was that added to year 2?
let me look here.
It kind of looks like, previously it was 82,000 and now it's 102,000.
Oh, technology and equipment?
Yeah.
Yes, so that may well be. The estimated cost of a new system is in the $35,000 range.
So that's about,
Yeah, they've got 2018, 2019 replaced telephone system, approximate cost $20,000.
Yeah, and that the 35,000 number is a number that our IT department came up with, but I think that's we have that's some of the fine tuning that's still going on, I think, in some of those numbers. For example, the parking lot number in here is much higher than, I think they've got 265,000, and the actual the probable cost is significantly lower in talking to some of the contractors. The goal of the expenses in the plan, from BTC's perspective, is to err on the high side in whenever possible. But I think there's still some fine tuning that needs to go on there. So those are the main elements. We also incorporated into this. It probably is may also be included in technology. I'm scanning down the list here. We had them add a new accounting system, and it may be that we don't have a number in here yet because we're still doing some research on
It
that.
doesn't look like they've updated their table because they have that listed as $15,000. But they don't have, that should raise that to 175.
Yeah, I don't see that at the table. So there's some of those things that we're trying to catch before this is completely finalized. So.
Yeah, and yet they've got the number updated for year 2, so. Okay.
There's a lot of data in this, and so we're trying to make sure that everything is correlated among the tables.
Do they have a time frame of when you're going to be reviewing this and then giving final comments back to them to get the actual?
That's one of the reasons why I put this in the packet now. And we'd like to bring it back to the Facilities Committee in August, at the earliest September at the latest, so that we can have something, and have a document that we can consider final for this first round that we can work with. But it's in close enough version, I think, it's already become a useful tool, I think, for us to be looking at. One decision we have to make, I think, as a board and staff is how often we want to update this. Every other year, I think, is often what some organizations do. The city does its own kind of plan like this, of course, they update it every year. But, and update the budgeting for it every year. So, the financial piece for us, is there's not much to update in the short term, but we may have opportunities to update that more in the future. But as we identify projects or those sorts of things, or we complete things, we want to make sure we keep this as up to date as possible, so that we always have a sense of where we're going with this. And obviously, things we can't do, we have to keep pushing out. things we can do in part. We need to do a plan for that. So it's, some of the big projects facing us in the short term, telephone, the RFID system, and related to our self-check units, the end of life on those is in 2019. So there's several things like this that one way I sort of look at it as our hand is being forced by outside forces to some extent. Not that we have to have something completely replaced by the end of life, as long as there is some repair parts still available, but I think it behooves us to be planning and working toward those dates.
Sure, it's not like on the end of life date, the system's gonna stop working.
Right.
It's just, that's when they stop supporting it.
Right, it's like Windows XP.
Right.
A lot of people are still using Windows XP.
Sure.
But, you know, once the service ends and the availability of parts begins to diminish drastically, then that'll put us in a bad situation if we can't repair like our self-check units or
Okay.
gates, for example. So, again, I want to make sure you had the latest clean version. So, and this warrants more discussion. I figure a lot of that may take place at the facilities committee.
And I see they had deleted the amount for the humidifier, so that's gone.
They did.
And the fire department,
Right, those are both
Yeah.
errors that they didn't really need to keep.
right, so they're both gone, so that's.
Yeah. So yeah,
But they do have the backflow preventer in there still, which we need.
They
Which we don't need, don't we?
Well, there's a dispute over that. I'm glad that question came up. There's a disagreement. Their engineering subcontractor that worked on this still believes that that is required and should be here, and yet we've been passing the inspections, and so what our plan is to have inspector and Jeff and facilities and I will all convene and scope this out.
Okay.
And come to a conclusion. You know, okay, this is what the regulation is, and this is what we're doing, and
Sure.
you know, because there clearly is there's something not in sync. There's a disconnect there someplace.
But yeah, I want to make sure we meet code, but if we're not required to install that equipment, then I don't see a need to spend the money, so.
Right.
And it might be that it's, you know, the requirements were added after the building was constructed, and it's something that, you know, if we make any changes to our water system, we'll have to add it at that time. If you
Right.
make significant changes to the building, or it may be that, you know, buildings already in service have a certain amount of time to install it, and maybe there's a window there that we need to meet that we're not aware of, so.
Jeff was on vacation last week, so we haven't got the date scheduled yet, but I think it's important to put that particular item to rest.
Yeah, no, right, I think it's important we meet code, so. Okay.
And determine whether we're supposed to be meeting.
Right.
So, yeah.
I had a note here too from the last meeting that the emergency generator was not included in the previous.
The purchase of such, yes.
Right, so I don't know whether.
And you know, that's a good question. I wasn't, before this meeting, I wasn't looking for that particular item. But we identified that on the staff level, so in my quick review this week, I don't recall seeing that in here, so I'll make a note and make it.
Is that we want to add one for the building?
One of the things we've identified as a possibility in our technology plan is a whole building generator,
Gotcha.
which we do not have.
Do we have the capability to connect to one?
We'd actually have to purchase one. I don't.
No, I mean like a rental one.
Oh, I don't know the answer to that question.
Because that would be, I mean, you'd have to rent it, and, you know, if you lose power, the potential that a generator is available for rent, we're probably low on the priority list for rentals. You know,
Yeah.
the fire station's gonna need one before we do.
Right.
But,
And they may actually. already-
right, and maybe they have one, but that would be an alternate, is to put in the connection so that we can we can rent a generator.
Right. I'd have to check on that. I don't know what we do, actually.
So,
That's not a question that actually discussed in the
Yeah.
staff level.
right, it would be good in case we lost our connection, but, yeah, there'd just be an evaluation of a number of things to look at for them, but it might be a less expensive alternative, but it may also wouldn't give you the dedicated power in the event of a large event.
We've had several events where we've lost power for 20, 30, 40 minutes. And not a huge number, but over the last 10 years, a few.
Yeah.
At the wrong time of day, we basically are asking patrons to, come to the front because
Sure.
we don't want them sitting back. We do have emergency lights that will last for longer than that, but
Well, it might be a fire code thing too, without power, I don't know. You're allowed to have people in the building, I don't know how that
Do you have
works.
to evacuate?
Yeah, I don't know.
If you lose power for a certain amount of time?
we have tended to ask people at least to come up to the front, and
Okay,
it's varied according to the time of day.
sure. All right,
But thank you for reminding me of that. I have it in my other notes, but yeah, that's one of the reasons why I began to go through sort of on a line by line to make sure that everything is up to date and correct. And they did not update the windmill in here, so for example, they're still saying that the windmill isn't back and that kind of, so just little details like that I
Sure.
want to make sure are correct, along with the bigger, more significant items.
okay. Are there any other questions or comments on the capital asset study? Okay, item 14 is the parking lot. And George, you can present this to them?
I'd be happy to. This is in here to have a discussion. I'm recommending, proposing that we replace the parking lot as opposed to do repairs every year, starting probably this year. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's important to look at it in the overall picture, because we have a lot of more things to spend money on than we have money to spend, obviously. We historically have seal coated the lot in odd numbered years, every other year, odd numbered years. And so that would be this year. We have not done that yet. Cost of seal coating is, for us, is over $5,000. Jeff had gotten, before he went on vacation, had actually gotten proposals, and it's seal coating and filling the cracks with the hot sealant and then striping the lot. If we start patching the worst spaces, the worst spots this year, and there are 3 that probably could need to be done at this point, that would cost us $27.55 this year to do that. There are some spots that seal coating is not going to do anything for. It's starting to break down more. The worst spots are on the lower lot. I think it's the slope that has not ever helped things. And there's like a pressurized stream almost that I think runs underneath there, which would anyway, I think, because of the nature of the hydraulic nature of the land. But I would hate to seal coat and patch if, in fact, in another year, the deterioration continues to get to the point where we think we would like to do something more major. So it was at least worthwhile to make a proposal in order to have the discussion about whether this, in everybody's mind, is a big enough priority to deal with now, because once we replace it, it's good for 25, plus or minus years with a new lot. I think I'd have to look at see what they say exactly in here in terms of that. But
Is that because there would be different material than what was used when it was first installed? Because we haven't gotten 25 to 30 years out of this one.
No, no, we haven't. We've gotten, from the time it was installed, probably 17, years. Building opened 15 and a half years ago, so the lot was completed prior to that. So, 16 to 17 years, something in that range. And I need to find that. Going by what I was told in a conversation this week, but I should look and verify that.
Yeah, I thought one of their tables gives life.
Yeah.
They find a lot. There's this plan where they say in 2018, 2019, the cost is 265.
Correct.
That's for the full replacement.
Right,
That's
and
what-
then
Yeah.
it keeps going with seal coating up until,
Yeah, but they've got $30,000 every 5 years, every 4 years.
The next time they show that being replaced is in the, so it may be closer to 20 years, because I thought I saw that showing up in here.
It's not showing up again, though.
well, I see in 2031, it says a full depth asphalt pavement repair at 50 grand.
Oh,
Oh,
versus a replacement. So on a repair, they would probably come in
Right.
and they would, as they do on a lot of streets, they'll come in and mill the surface down and just
Right.
take off some of the asphalt and then relay asphalt on top
so
of it.
that's
Well, in fact,
only 11 years from the full replacement. Right, 'cause
2030.
we're saying 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
the,
And then in 2035, they're back to seal coating.
yeah.
So I don't see any.
So 20 years maybe based on what we're seeing here. What the process actually would be, in fact, grinding up. There's 2 layers of asphalt, and then there's below that is the gravel and all the preparatory layer. And when they replace a parking lot, they come in with a large piece of equipment, the kind they use on highways, and they grind off the finish layer or the top layer down to the base. And then at that point, all the spots where you see the worst damage now, that base layer is visible on that layer. It's coming up from below. And they would actually cut out pieces of the base layer and replace that while the top layer is off. And then they would come back in and put a whole new finish layer on and stripe it. So they don't dig it all the way down to the gravel for the whole lot. They grind off the top and then repair underneath. And the areas that they know where to repair in terms of design and specifications, I'm told, tend to be the areas that show the worst alligatoring and deterioration now. You're a civil engineer, you probably know more about this than I
I work with pipes, not
Pipes,
pavement.
okay,
Yeah.
very good.
The BTC did say that the pavement was generally observed to be in poor condition, widespread cracking, and they put it in the second year
Right.
of our plan, so.
So this is dated 2013, but did you get an updated one?
Which,
The-
oh, that's me.
Oh, I thought, I just,
I know it should be, I thought I had corrected that, and apparently I didn't correct it. The date should say July 14th, 2017.
oh, okay.
Just taking an old board report and,
No, that's fine. I just didn't know if that was something that you got like a bid
No.
from previous years and then
no,
got it updated. or
never
something.
gotten a bid before. That was just a Scrivener's error on the date. So I apologize for that.
So now, so they're saying the total would be 36,500?
That's just a
This is
consultant.
just
That's for the
the-
consultants.
This is, in talking to asphalt contractors, it looks like $2 to $3 a square foot is a realistic number, which is in the 172 top.
Is that including some repairs, or is that just
Yeah.
taking out the top surface and replacing it?
The two is, I think when you get the 2 to 3, the upper range is including, I think, some significant repair.
Okay.
So, and that's, I think, based in part by, from an actual contractor. The bidding will tell us more, obviously, than that. The services, part of what they've described doing is doing some drilling here in certain areas to test what's underneath. So there's an allowance for that. The design phase is the important part where they're developing all the design and specifications. Because it's a sealed bid process, because the actual cost is high, higher than $20,000 for us. It requires good design and specifications, and so they're helped with the bidding phase, analyzing the bids and helping us review those and making a recommendation to us. And then during construction phase, the construction would be as little as 3 days. Probably the worst case scenario would be a week, but the contractor I talked to get some better sense of how this works basically said you grind it all off on the first day and you do the repairs on the second day and you put down the new layer on the third day. Now, obviously this is contingent upon having weather that participates with the...
So we have to close the library then? I mean, if the
We
parking
wouldn't-
lot is not available?
Well, we wouldn't need to close the library. We would want to do a project like this at a time when we don't have significant programming scheduled, a books meeting bites or a new lyceum, or certainly this would never be done in the summertime, so summer reading club wouldn't be affected. But, the best time to do this kind of work, I understand, is in the fall or the spring. Cooler weather is best for this kind of work. The asphalt season ends, depending on the year, depending on the weather, in November. They actually stop producing asphalt. The companies that make the stuff stop producing it, at a certain point, because you just can't do this kind of work over the winter. So,
Can you do it in sections?
well, you could.
Like the top half versus the lower level?
Yeah.
Right, or like half, so that
Right.
there's still some parking available.
You could do like the whole backside at once and leave the upper side open. If you do the top level in sections, there might not be an easy way to walk across, there may not be an easy path. In a way, the one significant issue for that is the grinding phase, because the contractors apparently, unless you're dealing with a company that owns its own grinding equipment, it's like $1 million piece of equipment, and most of them lease it, unless it's a company that does a lot of road work and things like that. And you lease it twice, you're paying more money for that, which means that we'd be paying more money for that.
So they'd have to rent it twice, is what
Right.
you're saying?
Yeah. So there's an I understand there's an efficiency in just doing it. Yeah. We could be open. Our business would be significantly impeded by that because people would have to park on the street or park across the street in public lots and things like that, and walk over. So.
And it's 3 days, it would be,
A minimum, at least 3 days, yeah. So this is the kind of project that no matter how you look at it is disruptive, in a way it's almost better to pull the Band-Aid off all at the same time and get it over with. If the board feels it's a high enough priority to do that. It's the one very visible project that in the end seems like it would cost quite a bit less than perhaps $100,000 less than what is being estimated based on what the marketplace is, but,
And correct me, you said, Joanne, that you saw that it's VTC is suggesting that this be in year 2 of the plan?
Yes.
So not this year, they're suggesting we would do it in 2018?
The original, yeah. on the-
That's the original
So
Okay.
2018 to 2019, but your comment was that we either need to spend,
5,000 this year.
well, we could skip the seal coating. We probably, frankly,
we need to spend a few $1,000s on patching
yeah,
this
so,
year.
and that, if we know we're gonna do it, then we,
Could defer
we
the patching
we
this
could,
year.
we could
and
defer,
just
yeah.
Tear off next
The
year.
the
I
logical
was
way.
saying do it all now.
Yeah.
Just-
Well,
But that's, I guess, the timing of this, so this, if we hire them to do this consulting and do this design phase, would they be able to do that all before the fall and
Yeah.
before that season ends type thing?
There's
Is that
the-
what we're doing now, or are we just talking about?
There's a
Hiring
possibility.
them to start doing the designing and?
Well, I asked that question about the timing, and there's a possibility that everything would go smoothly to the point where we could bring back a recommended contractor, the best bidder at the board's October meeting. The two main decision points, this is a decision point, obviously. The end of the design phase could be a decision point. It often is for the board, but approving the successful bidder is like a key decision point. If that's approved in October, that gives enough of a window to do the work. In talking to BTC, while this is like a volume type work, this is not like our exterior work that went on for quite a number of months, and it's a big project for a contract. Not that this isn't a big project, but it's not $1 million project. And an asphalt contractors, apparently their goal is to do a good job, but to not waste a lot of time.
Sure.
So
Sorry.
so also this doing all the bidding in the fall with the start date of construction being the beginning of the construction season in the spring actually may be a more logical way to approach this. Because if the contractors are all pretty busy this fall, the bids may not be as good as if we're catching them, we'd like you to start this in the spring, so to give them work in the spring, then we might get a little bit more competitiveness. We found that with the exterior work.
Well, wouldn't that be something that BTC would help us make sure we're getting that best
Correct.
competitive timeframe and
Right,
working
and
through that? I mean,
Right, and that's why I was having that kind of conversation with Christopher Contra, one of the two names on the front of the report, and he said that it could make a difference to do the work in the spring for that reason.
Sure.
So, and then we're within a few months of the next fiscal year at that point. So it's
Well, what I like about that too is that we would have already started the community engagement project.
Correct.
Maybe we would have gotten some lessons learned on how best to communicate some of these capital projects.
right.
Because I think the community remembers the last big spend was on the exterior.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want necessarily the next big spend in everybody's mind to just be like, if we went from concrete to asphalt. So like, how do we put that in the right context of the plan and the vision for the library? So if we could make sure that this work wouldn't start till next year, I think that gives us a leg up on the communications aspect of it.
Oh, absolutely.
how would that impact the budget for this fiscal year? Because that's obviously not something we budgeted for.
No, we tend not to have a line item budget for the special reserve fund.
Because we'd be using this, I see.
Yeah, this would be completely the special reserve fund.
The
What
other question I
projects?
had-
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. The other question I had, you said something about, and this is just new, I'm new to it. You said something about a sealed bid process for anything over 28,000. Wouldn't this consulting work require those bidding out? Or is that because
No,
we've
that's-
already hired BTC to do this capital asset study? so
Correct. Right.
That falls under that? Even though
Right.
it's an additional service that we're paying them for?
Yes,
Over and above
it's
the capital
considered
asset?
different from construction. So there are the-
Right, but it's still a service that's over $28,000.
Correct.
Satisfactory relationship with the vendor? Perfect.
Thank
Which
you.
changes the.
That's what I was,
Yeah.
that's what I was wondering. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So on a quick side note too, as far as technical services, we typically don't take those on a low bid basis. Typically those are qualifications
Sure.
based.
Sure, I just
Yeah, no,
I just
but-
heard that, and I just wanted to make sure we were following the
Absolutely,
rules.
that's a good question, that's a good
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
And if we were to go ahead with this project, what projects do you see we may have to, down the road a little bit, that you had in mind?
But I was gonna say, looking at what they've got on the schedule, if we want to go by what BTC has recommended,
Right.
they've got the cupola and
Chimney.
chimney for this fiscal year. Technology and equipment, and that's mostly dealing with
RFID.
that's the phones and the RFID, right?
Mhm.
There was something else in there. Actually, that's short, it should be 175,
Right.
according
With
to
the
what
accounting software?
the accounting software. So it was the phones, the accounting software, and the RFID.
I think the phone is in year 2, the phone system,
Oh, was it? Okay.
and the 160, I think, is pretty much RFID.
They,
The other big ticket is the 150 for the temperature control system.
right, and I don't know anything about that.
You know, and we'd have to take a closer look at that, you know, because they did correct the boiler section, because we completely replaced the boilers in '08, I think it was, and so but they're talking about controls here, and we actually we upgraded our control system not that long ago, so that's an area that I had flagged to have more discussion about. So
Okay.
I want to go back and look at that.
So I guess my question is, if we
Yeah.
were thinking that some of those projects would be being paid for in year 1,
Right.
Well,
we'll going ahead with the,
we currently have just over $600,000 in that fund, and the goal is to add
right,
as much money as we can each year. So I think we need to, the staff level, the manager level RFID team will be coming back in August or September so with answers to some of the questions that were asked at the time of their first report. And we can have some conversations, I think, at that point about what we're looking at doing. There's multiple phases in that, and in the long run, I think the phase that probably would have to be deferred, which is not year 1, but which would end up having to be deferred, would be some of the sorting equipment. I think the two things that are probably most important are the equipment for checking things in and out, including the self-check and at the checkout desk, and then but before any of that can happen, that the collection has to be tagged. So we have an end of life in 2019 on the self-check equipment. So that's one of the things that some of this discussion happened before the election. So I apologize for that, but that's why that'll be coming back again, so we can bring everybody up to speed. So I consider that an important project for the library. If it has a daily impact on what we're doing, and it has a lot of time-saving opportunities for us in terms of use of staff and things like that.
So
We can limp along even, probably for a little extra time with the telephone system if we need to, because the telephone system is certainly not broken at this point. It's just that, again, the end of life on the maintenance is coming up. The smaller projects, I think we just need to look at those. Things like, the cupola and the chimney, and the stove hoods. We will resolve the domestic water backflow preventer, which is a small ticket item. I think we just need to look at those and determine, what is really going on there.
And when you say look at those, is that the facilities committee that's going to do that?
Yes, well, we'll start on the staff level, looking at that, we'll bring it back to the facilities committee.
So really, kind of, whether we want to move forward with the paving, in my mind, depends on how we prioritize that task. So is that something that we want to move forward with? Because if we're not interested in spending the money to replace the paving now, then in my mind, there's no need to move forward with an engineering contract to lay out what needs to be done.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But if we want to move forward with this, get bids out this winter so that come spring, we can try and take advantage of low bid prices in the winter, and then come spring, we do the work, then we should move forward with the engineering task of that. So what I think I hear you saying is that the RFID is our priority over the next 2 years. And so that's $160,000 for the estimated for the check-in machines and the tagging equipment for the first year, and then $82,000 for the phase 2 equipment installation in the second year, and then the automatic materials handler is in the third year, and that's $130,000, and that's the item that we hope to be able to afford, but don't know that we can.
That's the piece that is the most, and I've talked to Pam Weber about this in circulation, that's the piece that's most easily deferred.
Okay.
That's the piece that would be nice, but it's not as necessary as others.
Right.
The other major project, which shows up in year 3, 2019-20, is all the facade things are relating to the windows.
Right, and that's $1 million.
The ceiling.
That's a
is-
huge year.
That's a big year.
Right, and that's,
That's the cladding, that's the wall
and
flashing. the
I've had
ceiling,
several
the
conversations
windows,
with BTC, because that's, when we first started looking at the exterior projects, we ended up splitting it into facade and site, and we did the site because the facade was very.
Because we can afford to do the site.
Right, we could afford to do an enormous amount of work with the money we had, and the windows themselves are okay. It's the
Flashing.
flashing and the trim around them, and when they opened up the walls in a few places in the building to examine the inside of the walls, and there wasn't active moisture inside the walls at that time. They also did pressurized water testing, and with spraying water, at the edges of these areas, water at that point could invade the building, but there was no sign of dampness or like mold or things like that was existing. So that was one of the reasons why I think the board at the time focused on let's do the other work, because that was much more visible to the public. We had, rusting railings, and we had sinking
And we had-
sidewalks, and we
right.
had
Displacement out here, right?
we had safety hazards and things like that, so that's why all that work was done. Doing the corner allowed us to negotiate with the city to eliminate the responsibility for adding a second stairway on Water Street, which the library, I think, never thought there was any need to have a second stairway on Water Street, but as part of the original approval by the city back in 1999, that was one of the requirements the city had imposed upon the library, was to put a second stairway. So we said, if we expand the stairway on the corner, would you remove that requirement? And they said yes, we would, and they did, and we did, and so that was money well spent for us there, because it opened up our site. So anyway, we did a lot of outside work that was important. I talked to Josh Summers at some length about the windows, and he said, we concluded that while there's always a possibility, given the situation, of failure over time, our worst problem with the windows right now are the sills, which tend to be laminated particle board sills on the insides of the windows. And there are many areas in the library that over the past 15 years, the particle board has swollen a bit because of moisture. Again, there's no mold or mildew or things like that, but we've seen that effect around it. So I see that as a project that either we figure out a way to do that in like 4 phases.
We we had talked about that at the time, whether you would do like north, south, east, west walls or.
Yeah, and then look at how we defer that out, because that's, we probably won't have that kind of money in 2 years.
Can I make a suggestion? So, I feel like this is the first time we're hearing, looking at that, but, and because we didn't have a facilities committee meeting in July,
Correct.
I do feel like that's really the committee should vet this out a little bit more and kind of hear what the staff and you kind of prioritize those other projects that we might be deferring and maybe look at the reserve fund and kind of plan that out. And then come to the August meeting after a committee meeting, and then the board can say, okay, here's the committee's recommendation to the board. Because that's really what the facilities committee is for, right? I feel like we're getting into a lot of weeds that the facilities committee should be doing at that committee meeting. But unfortunately, we didn't have that meeting in July, which was fine. And I don't think that would cause too much delay on.
No, if we're looking at a spring construction,
Right,
that wouldn't
like I
cause
just
any
feel
delay
like
at all.
it just seems very,
Completely agree.
okay.
Yeah. So
I agree too, as the chairman of the facilities.
I don't even know who's on the
Well, I would
committee.
agree with
I
that.
might be too,
Yeah.
but I don't,
I agree with that,
okay.
Okay, yeah, especially if we want to,
The last
And then
we
we'll
talked,
come
we
in
talked
August
about
and
a
vote on
sinkhole
it,
that
because
we
I
had
just
to
feel like
repair.
I'm not ready.
Yeah.
And then-
Well,
Right.
I discussed this before bringing it here with the committee chair, and partly it was because we didn't have a committee. And
Sure.
a lot of this was intended to get a sense of the board.
Sure, and get an
You know,
overview,
yeah.
I absolutely
And,
agree with
and
that.
I'm perfectly comfortable, especially with the spring construction schedule, bringing it back to the committee and as you say, digging deeper.
Yeah.
yeah, if we wanted to do it in this fall, then maybe we would need to discuss it, but I don't, so.
The only reason to do anything with it tonight was if there was a compelling reason to actually do construction in the fall. And I think we've got compelling reasons not to do construction in the fall.
So if you were going to seal coat and stripe the lot, when would you have planned to do that yet this year or this fall?
Well, probably Labor Day weekend, something like that. But if we're seriously, I'm getting a sense that there may be some serious interest in us taking a more holistic approach to this
Right.
problem. And so I'm perfectly happy to not worry about the seal coating.
Okay,
I just don't want to, spend $8,000 for nothing.
I
That
agree.
doesn't seem like good money to me.
No, yeah, I don't want to spend $8,000
And then have to,
in October and then rip it out in November.
Right.
Yeah, that was, good. Okay, so then do we need a motion to table this, or how do we,
No,
or since we're not doing anything with it, we don't need
It
to.
sounds
do
like
anything?
the consensus of the board is to defer it to facilities, so that's.
Okay. Any
you can-
other
you can do
comments on
whatever you
this?
want to.
Having previewed it in the whole board, are there specific items you guys want the committee to dig into more deeply, other than just sort of thorough vetting?
Well, I just think we just need that priority of what we would have to give up, where we think, I think the other thing is, if that 265 number that BTC gave is really completely conservative, what's the number we're looking at that we're gonna have to dip into the special reserve fund? So what is that $600,000 gonna go down to? And that realistically, because if it's not 265, I would love to know, is it 165? Is it 250?
well, George suggested that it might be 172.
Right.
And that would be awesome.
That would be fantastic, right? And then maybe we don't have to defer all of the things that
Right.
we're thinking we have to defer.
Right,
So no.
that was my concern. It's
Yeah.
like, we take this.
So I
and
think those things
kick a
would be
lot of other
the
things
key
down the
things
road.
to talk through.
That's based on a conversation with a contractor.
Mhm.
Sure.
We won't know for sure until we have bids, but
Right.
but it's a contractor that we've worked with, for the last 10 or 12 years, so it's.
Now, when you work with BTC, can you suggest contractors that they,
In fact, when we've gone out for bids on other projects, we advertise. We always seem to come up with one or two contractors that have seen the ad that didn't hear about it any other way, which is why we should advertise. And then
We have to.
Do it.
We're required to.
Yes, I'm
And we
sorry.
do it in the Tribune now, right? Or do we do it in the Chronicle?
Uh,
Well, it ends up, they're
I
the
think
same
it-
people now, so.
I think it's the Herald, actually.
Okay,
we've been
so
doing
the
that.
online is the same.
Because the Herald actually has a broader, but
Okay.
there are services that actually look for
Right.
these ads and report them to the contractors. And then BTC, like when we did the exterior work, they identified a list of contractors they felt were capable of doing the work and that they thought would do a good job of the work. So we actually just submitted stuff to them right off the bat. And we do the same with this. There are a handful of asphalt contractors in our area, including in Batavia itself.
Right. So it'd go in the paper, and then we would send them, the other contractors that we know can do the work, a copy of the advertisement, just to make sure they see it, so.
It'll be on the street for maybe 3 to 4 weeks, I
Okay.
think.
Right, and then generally what we do with these is we'll advertise them and try to get them open before the committee meeting.
Mhm.
And let the engineer do the bid opening. The engineer can open the bids, evaluate them, let us know if they seem, because we always go with the lowest responsive bidder. So they will let us know if there's something non-responsive about their bid, if there's a reason to disqualify the bidder for some reason, and if there's any, if we want to go forward with that, and then that gives the committee a chance to look at it, and then it can come to the full board for a vote. So that process, takes a couple weeks, and then it needs to be on the street for a couple weeks, so, it sometimes takes a couple months to get
Sure.
something all the way through. Unless we want it to come straight to the board without going to committee, so that usually takes a little bit longer.
We rarely do that. We try to bring to the
Yeah.
committee.
Unless it's something that we really got to meet a schedule. Like if we were trying to get this done this year, then that would be something we
Oh,
would do.
yeah.
So if it was a project that had a big deadline like that, so. My concern is that we don't know what the extent of where it is failing and how big those areas are, and that the patching number.
That's
would be
part of
bigger.
what the design phase.
And so that would be right, so that would be one of the things at BTC, because they've got some testing in there, so they would actually, I don't know how much they need, just don't know. So they'd go in, I guess, and take some samples or push a drill rig down or whatever, and take some soil samples to see where it's competent enough, so. And that would help us to get a better cost estimate for repairs.
Right. There was some concern about sinkholes, I
Right.
believe.
Near where some of the storm
Which
drains are,
the
right?
longer we defer this, the more
We fixed the
problematic that
sinkhole.
may
We
be.
did fix the sinkhole.
Okay.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. It cost $3,000, I think.
Okay.
2,002.
Bad pipe or broken pipe?
What was happening, and the same thing happened in the Circle Drive a few years ago, about the time you were joining Deutschler, in fact, I think, because Deutschler did it.
Oh, the top of the hill, yeah.
The water, the sealant around the grate had failed, which it will do over time, and water was running down the outside of the drain
Storm
grate
structure instead of
structure,
into it.
and it was beginning to wash out some of the gravel and things. And the longer you let that go, the more it digs it out. But it was they took them a couple hours actually to dug it out. And,
Fixed it? Good. Okay. That was my biggest concern, is like you said, Kate, we were gonna start losing parts of the
Yeah.
parking lot, so.
yeah,
Okay.
we didn't have much choice about that.
No, that's,
That was a safety issue.
okay. All right, so we'll let that go to facilities. Next item, number 15, is a resolution adopting a charge for community engagement. So this was developed by,
Unicon ARC.
Thank you.
And I converted it into more of our standard format. And
Okay.
The management team looked at it last week, and here it is.
and so the management team's gone through it,
Mhm.
and you guys have tweaked it a little bit?
There was one question that came up that Rod Wright answered for us, and otherwise we didn't really change it
Okay.
from this format.
Is it appropriate for me to read it out loud then?
If you want.
Sure. So this would be a resolution adopting a charge for community engagement. Whereas the mission of the Batavia Public Library is to provide and ensure access to materials and services to meet the lifelong learning needs of residents and organizations as well as to create a welcoming place to gather, exchange ideas, and participate in cultural events. And whereas the accomplishment of that mission is dependent upon an ongoing collaborative partnership between the library and its community that will engage stakeholders in meaningful dialogue and discussion and solicit stakeholders' hopes, ideas, and suggestions. And whereas the Board of Library Trustees supports the process of long-range planning for making important decisions about the future of the Batavia Public Library. And whereas the board seeks community input to help determine the future direction of the library. Now therefore let it be resolved by the Board of Library Trustees of the Batavia Public Library District, Batavia, Illinois, and the counties of Kane and DuPage, Illinois, as follows. The board hereby authorizes the formation of a citizen committee, a broad-based coalition of community members, trustees, and staff members to join together in researching opportunities for the library to improve its services and to develop a set of recommended goal statements pertaining to those opportunities for the board's consideration. The charge of this group is to help chart a path for the library's continued success by determining key issues facing the library, understanding community aspirations, desires, and goals for the library, creating a process whereby a broad-based group of residents can engage in learning, dialogue, and deliberation on issues facing the library, incorporate relevant perspectives that build on previous planning initiatives by the library, reaching consensus on future goals for the library, recommending how those goals are to be accomplished, determining the impact of those goals on library resources, building an ongoing process to strengthen trust, two-way communications, and collaboration between the library and its community. Upon completion of its work, this committee will present recommended goal statements to the board for its consideration no later than July 31st, 2018. The board shall participate in this process and will consider the recommended goal statements presented by the community in due course of its scope of duties. So the idea here is that this charge would be adopted by the board, which would lead us towards our community engagement process and just kind of lay the groundwork for that next step.
This is like the formal beginning of
The formal statement of our goals and our plans for this. Okay, and that was recommended
by our
our planning consultant, just to get us off on the right foot so we're all looking in the same direction.
Correct.
Okay.
I just have one suggestion, and that's in section 2, where it says the charge to this group. I mean, when I read this, it confused me. I wasn't sure, because the word committee had been used throughout the entire, everywhere else where it's referring to this.
Yeah, I think he's referring to the citizen committee, so you prefer to use committee?
I think so, because
That's what it says in section 4. And
Right.
section 3 is committee.
and section 1.
Yeah, you're right,
So-
so, easy enough to change that.
Yeah, that would be my, and then when it says incorporating relevant perspectives that fill in previous planning initiatives by the library, are they talking about the phone survey and the capital assets plan and that?
Exactly. All of the above and whatever else.
Okay. So can I have a motion to approve the resolution 2017-007, adopting a charge for community engagement as amended
So moved.
from Mr. Henders? Seconded?
Second.
Thank you. We need a voice vote or roll call? Roll call, thank you.
Blodgett, Colada,
Aye.
Beechman,
Aye.
Garrett,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
McKenzie,
All right.
Smith, aye.
All right, thank you, everybody.
And as a reminder, we still need suggestions from all of you about potential members. Did everyone get the email that I sent?
Oh,
I
yes,
sent-
you sent an email.
You did.
That was
Yes,
right
I-
before the, how many people are we on this committee?
We were asking everybody for 10 suggestions, but it's 5 to 10 suggestions, but it's the committee won't be that big.
And so
15 people, yeah.
for people who might be watching on BTV, so we are going to be soliciting members from the community to join this committee, and we want them to be residents of Batavia, is that correct? We want them to be in this
Of the
tax-
district.
district, okay. Any other stipulations?
No, at some point, we anticipate a rather large number of names, and the rules will need to be vetted to get it down to a manageable size.
Okay. And who will choose those committee members? Will, as a board of trustees, will we choose them? Will staff choose those? What's the
There's a
recommended
process that Rod has
Okay.
that he hasn't presented, but
Okay.
it'll include board and staff.
Okay, so that we can get a broad cross-section of the community.
I just got an email from him actually,
Okay.
indicating that we should be talking about that. And that's why I want to make sure I remind everybody to submit
Okay.
that.
So for anybody that's watching on BATV, if you're interested in joining this committee to help us in some community engagement, then contact George at the library. Okay. All right, we have a list of future agenda items. Thank you for having that for us. We will have committee meetings in August, and our next regular meeting is 15th of August.
Committee meetings are early in the month, the 1st and the 3rd.
Okay, since it starts on a Tuesday.
That's right.
Okay.
As early as
So,
they can possibly be.
yeah, excellent. And then, so 15th of August is our next regular board meeting. You have nothing on the agenda for the September board meeting. Does that mean do we not normally have something in September?
There are no standard annual things that come up, but
Okay.
that doesn't mean we don't,
Won't have a meeting?
there have been times when meetings have been canceled for one reason or another, but it's possible to have other issues come up that are not annual.
Okay. When's the next board action on our community engagement? Is that-
That will relate to the creation of the actual citizen committee.
Okay, so we're a month or two away from doing anything else on this.
I think, well, we need to get all the names in
Okay.
first, and then Rod has a process
Okay.
to help us get down to, take it just no more than 2 trustees,
Okay.
really only a small number of staff members, and the bulk of the group is actually our citizens, and so we need to make that decision.
Okay. All right, does anybody have anything else? Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved.
Who moved
Seconded?
it?
Joanne.
Okay. Oh, okay.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
It is possible.
It is.
You got